morning, PT on Ice. I hope everyone's Monday is off to a good start. Hopefully, actually, you can see me because I have the camera turned around so that you can actually, hopefully, sort of see my whiteboard this time. If we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Allie Hartman. I am with the Population Health, the APHPT division of the ICE faculty. Here in place of Mike Eisenhart this morning to talk a little bit about starting the conversation, some lifestyle questions that you can start to incorporate into your subjective evaluation in the clinic to start weaving in some of the concepts of prevention, health promotion into your clinical practice. But before I do that, I want to give a shout out to anyone going to the Sampler this weekend. It's going to be so much fun. We head out Thursday for a fun day in Vegas Friday, and then we'll be around all weekend. Just tons of learning, tons of great content, and a lot of fun weaved all into one. So if you're going, look forward to seeing you there or meeting you for the first time. And if you're not going, it's not too late to hop on a flight to Vegas and join us. So that's coming up this weekend. Okay, so today I wanted to last time I was on, I talked very practical about what are 3 objective measures that we can start incorporating in the clinic so that we can be weaving in these concepts of prevention, health promotion into our clinical practice. And we can be measuring things. We can essentially be measuring the health of our patients so that we can be dosing health within their plan of care with us. And so my bias, I think now, during my time at Proactivity, they sort of turned me into a little mini data nerd. So I love the objective measures. I love having physical numbers to look at, to crunch and say, are we getting better as we go through time, and to reflect back. And I think that's really, really important. But as I thought about it, I really didn't want to miss how important just starting conversations related to some of the lifestyle behaviors that we talk about often, both at Proactivity and the APHPT, that we really put into the framework of the elements. So you guys have heard this if you've been following along. We have 5 elements of health: move, fuel, recover, endure, and connect. And I wanted to talk about really adding in the big 3, kind of the first 3 that are a little bit easier for us to start talking about into our subjective evaluation. So that's move, fuel, and recover. I feel pretty strongly that we as physical therapists should be asking, or really conservative care professionals as a whole, should be asking every single client or patient that we interact with about these 3 things. Endure and connect, as you see, is a little bit next level, although totally within our realm of capability. But to me, there's no excuse to not be asking questions in our subjective evaluation and layering in components of our treatment plan that touch on move, fuel, and recover. So how do we go about diving into those conversations? How do we start that? How do we preface it so that it doesn't feel like it's coming out of left field from a physical therapist? So to start, I've printed out one of my body charts. I'm a good ICE student and I use a body chart. So hopefully you guys can see this. So this is my evaluation form. My front page is my body chart, right, with all my little things related to my body chart so that I remember. And then my second page, I've literally added a box with these elements, okay? Because to me, these are a really important part of my evaluation. Why? We know that lifestyle behaviors are impacting the musculoskeletal conditions that people are seeking out treatment for, right? So we know that cardiovascular disease risk factors seem to track pretty closely with musculoskeletal disease risk factors. We know that things like progression of diabetes tracks with progression of symptoms of low back pain. We have tons of evidence. Definitely don't have time in the 15 minutes this morning to dive into all that evidence. But we know very clearly that our movement, the types of food we eat, and our recovery, our active recovery strategies, as well as our sleep, has a significant impact on pain, our risk for injuries, musculoskeletal conditions that we're seeing in the clinic, right? So these are important to be asking about. We just have to make it so that it's a part of our system. Okay, so I I'm going to go through the ways that I like to ask about these big 3 elements But before we get there, you're going through your evaluation with a person, and you're probably asking a lot of questions that they expected from you. And then as you transition to some of these lifestyle behaviors, it might seem like it comes out of left field for them at first. They're not expecting necessarily their physical therapist right off the bat to be asking them about the types of foods they eat, or asking them detailed questions about the sleep they get, or eventually asking them questions about their stress management capabilities. So I think the preface is really important, how you set that up so that you can sort of start to prime their mind and their expectation that this is going to be a really different experience. And so the way I like to do that is I'm going to transition into this more lifestyle behaviors history. I say, I'm going to ask you a few questions that might seem a little bit out of place for what you've experienced in physical therapy before, or what you'd expect. But what we know really clearly now is that our lifestyle behaviors have a big impact on our musculoskeletal conditions and our ability to recover and our ability to heal. And so here I want to gather all the information that I can to make sure we're leveraging every single aspect of your recovery so that we can get you better as quickly as possible and get you back to doing the things that you want to do. Does that sound okay? And by explaining it that way, you're telling the person, basically, I want to do more for you so that I can help you get better faster, and you're asking them permission to do so. I've never had anyone say no up to this point, but I think it's important to preface it so that they're prepared, they're primed, and it sets the expectation that, okay, this place is different. This place is now looking at me as an entire human being rather than just the isolated tissue that maybe I'm coming in to see them for. From there, I like to start with move, okay? I'm a sequential person, so I work our way through our elements, but I like to start with move because it's very comfortable for us as physical therapists, right? We should all probably, I hope that we're all already asking about move. We're already asking about folks' physical activity habits and behaviors. The way that I like to do it is to ask, tell me about a typical week of exercise or activity for you. Okay, remember, as we're diving into these conversations, we want to layer in some motivational interviewing strategies so that we're not just collecting this information, but we're starting conversations that can hopefully elicit behavior change talk from the person we're talking to. So open-ended questions as we're talking about lifestyle behaviors are our friend, okay? Tell me about a typical week of activity or exercise for you. Simple, and then let them go and listen, okay? And of course, then as the conversation goes, you'll have clarifying questions, you'll have small details, but that's going to get you started on a really good conversation about move. I don't want to spend a lot of time there. That's probably pretty comfortable for us. But if it's just something that has sort of fallen off of our radar, that we're not asking consistently about that, that's huge, right? That's pretty clear in the research now that move and our exercise history, both getting enough physical activity, getting at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity or exercise a week, or 75 minutes of vigorous, is really important for our health and our overall recovery. But also the variability piece, right? Picking up, does a person have sufficient variability in their life so that they're going to be able to do the things they want to do for a really long time? Next is fuel. My favorite kind of way to ask about that is, tell me a little bit about your fueling strategy. We use the word fuel in place of nutrition, okay? So tell me a little bit about your fuel habits. What are things that you like to eat? If they're struggling with that, or I sense that's going to be hard for them to just riff on, then I'll say, walk me through a typical day of fueling for you. Take yesterday and walk me through what that looked like, what kind of meals you ate. Important note with fuel, I try and stay away personally from the word diet. Diet has a really kind of negative connotation in our society, and it has a tendency to inflict a lot of guilt. And one of the things we want to help people do is dissociate their emotions from their food, right? So I try and use a positively framed word when talking about nutrition. Ultimately, what I'm looking for here, I want to know, are they getting sufficient, are they eating mostly real foods, right? Are they getting sufficient amount of fiber through enough whole food plant sources? And are they putting a lot of processed junk into their body in the process? Okay, so I'm looking for at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. Really closer to 7 to 9 is where I'm going to want to eventually get them. And I'm looking for limited junk, right? Limited processed stuff that we know is going to impact their healing and their recovery with me. So that's fuel, pretty simple. And finally, recover. I think this one is so important. We're getting more and more research that just tells us that sleep impacts, or lack of sleep impacts, every major system in the body, and the musculoskeletal system is absolutely no exception. So asking people, again, I love to start with tell me about your sleep habits. Tell me about a typical night's sleep for you, and seeing where they go with it. If you need to use some clarifying questions, what we really want to get to with this question is how many hours of sleep are you getting a night? And are you waking well rested, which essentially equates to, are you getting good quality sleep, right? In terms of hours per night, the research is pretty clear. 8 is what we need, okay? We can get by with 7 for short periods of time, but after we've been sleeping even 7 hours a night for 10 days, we're functioning as if we've pulled an all-nighter, as if we went 24 hours without sleep. So we're really looking for, is a person getting 8 hours of sleep a night? Are they waking rested, which would indicate they're getting good quality sleep? If they're not getting either of those, then that lets us know, okay, we need to layer in some interventions to help them get either more sleep, as close as we can get to the gold standard 8, understanding that that's not feasible for everyone, right? But getting as close as we can to it, and then making sure that the sleep that we do get is as high as quality as possible, right? We want people to be getting sufficient deep sleep so that their body can really restore, not just getting sleep where they're in bed, but they're in light sleep so that their body isn't getting the restorative benefits of that deep sleep, okay? So we ask these questions, and then they set us up to incorporate factors across each of these elements into our plan, right? Into our home exercise program, if you will. So Lori Gribshaw, shout out to her. She was in our intro course, our APHPT intro course that wrapped up last night. We had a wonderful discussion last night from the participants in that cohort, where they're just really utilizing this information across a variety of settings, from acute care to outpatient, to everything across the board. And one of the things that she said that she incorporates with her patients is a habit hack. So they have their home exercises, and then each week they'll have a habit hack. And she says, okay, based on these things that we talked about, these behaviors, I want you to pick one that we're going to work on for the week, and then let's pick something attainable within that habit each week. And so I think I love that. I think that's such a tangible way that you can take this information, asking questions across each of these elements, and then dose them into a home exercise program through a habit hack, right? So maybe we'll get a hashtag going, hashtag habit hack. But it's as simple as that. It's as simple as, okay, tell me about your fuel habits. Person's getting two plant sources a day. They're having a banana in the morning, and maybe they'll have one other serving of vegetables later in the day. Okay, well maybe our habit hack is just try and get 3 servings a day consistently. That's our start. And then once that's pretty easy, okay, 4 servings a day. Same with recover. Maybe a person is only getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and as you dig into their sleep hygiene, they have a really hard time winding down at night. So maybe your habit hack is just a small change to their sleep routine. Hey, I want you 30 minutes to kind of wind down. How about reading a book instead of being on your phone where that blue light is keeping you up? Simple things. What I'll say is that I don't think this stuff has to be rocket science, right? But if we are just willing to start the conversation, which I totally stole from sort of the mental health, starting the conversation piece. If we're just willing to start the conversation and start planting seeds that these factors matter, not just for overall health, we know that, but for the musculoskeletal conditions that you're coming here and paying me to help take care of, then over time that can have a compounding effect and be really, really powerful. So, perfect. 15 seconds to spare. So in summary, hope you guys think about adding questions at least related to move, fuel, and recover to your typical subjective eval in the clinic. and think about opportunities to dose out habit hacks as a part of their home exercise program. And if nothing else, just start planting the seeds that these behaviors really matter, okay? Maybe next time we'll get into talking about endure and connect. They're sort of next level in the prevention, health promotion world, but also really, really important and significant impacts on our health overall and our musculoskeletal health. So hope you guys have a great week. Hope to see some of you in Vegas, and I'll catch you next time. Happy Monday. Ooh.